I'm Kate, and I became a covenant member of Circle of Hope at the very first Love Feast in 1996. We were in our space on 10th Street. We were all the first covenant members, so we didn't have a current member to recommend us. We did still tell how we came to follow Jesus and why we wanted to join in the covenant of Circle of Hope.
So the first Love Feast, the number, I don't know, it was small, like 20, maybe 20 people. And I remember Rod with great exclamation saying, "Welcome to the Love Feast." And we all just started laughing. It just felt so funny. But it was so exciting and so lovely and so intimate, and still to this day, probably one of the most influential nights of my adult life.
One great memory I have of Love Feasts are just that they're really like family reunions. We get together, we see great people, we eat good food, and I remember when I was younger, all the kids would run around the church building, and it was so fun. We'd play crazy games.
Our engaged friends, Farrell and Claire, decided to push their wedding up. The Love Feast was happening that weekend, and they asked if it could double as their wedding ceremony, and of course we said yes. And they said, "I do," with a whole lot of applause.
Frank got baptized. He jumped back into the Wissahickon, and he was floating around on his back and looking up at the sky and just shouting hallelujah.
I remember the Love Feast at North Broad where I learned Andrew Yang's song, "Come Be My Rock." At the tagline, we all stood together to sing, "You know what it is to die, and then again to rise. So we follow you to die, we follow you to rise."
Ben baptized me at the Old South Broad space in a birthing pool. So just envisioning that is enough to make you smile.
The favorite thing for me was looking out in front of the crowd and seeing so many loving people who were authentic in their investment in me as a covenant member, and their willingness to join with me in my maturation development as a Christian.
And my fondest memory is the day I made my covenant and my baptism into the Wissahickon. It was the beginning of many transformations for me to be beloved by God and by a loving community.
I was in front of the whole congregation, and they were ready to affirm the covenant and welcome me in. And at that moment, I thought, I'm entering into a new family here. And up until that point in Philadelphia, I had felt very isolated. And that was the moment that I felt like I belonged to a people.
When I covenanted, I told the story of feeling at home as soon as I walked in the doors at Circle of Hope, and that I felt Jesus had really led me there and was waiting for me there. And that was made me emotional, and I got teary, and I told my new church that I often cry when I talk about Jesus and how much he loves me. I feel it very raw. And what I remember is being affirmed, and how much my new church community just loved that and welcomed me and my rawness, and I love them too.